Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Orthopreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Glenn Krieger. Now, 2025 has been an interesting year. What made it so interesting? Well, it was our last summit ever. We launched the newest type of meeting in the ortho space, the one that's going to innovate and change everything, the Ortho Vanguard. And it was a great year for the posts in the Orthopreneurs group about leadership, side hustles, technology, and truly what makes an orthodontic practice thrive and survive. The orthodontists themselves. Now, before we hit 2026, I want to look back at some of the best moments of the podcast. How do I know these are the best? Because these are the most watched, most listened to parts of the podcast. And so sit on back, relax. We're going to greet 2026 with some of the greatest moments of 2025 in the podcast. I hope you enjoy them as much as I've enjoyed recording them. And just know that doing this podcast is such a labor of love. And I will never, ever, ever forget all the thanks that each and every one of you give me for telling me you listen to this podcast. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. What do you say we get started? One of the most interesting podcast episodes I had the whole year was with fellow orthodontist John Lambert. Now, if you didn't listen to it, you're about to get a little taste of it. What made it really interesting is we were talking about side hustles in the Orthopreneurs group itself, and his side hustle is really interesting. It's literally a ranch. Now, he owns cattle, and he's in the process of, let's call it, graduating cattle to slaughter, and his kid's reaction to that. And as you listen to this, I think you'll also appreciate the fact that he has one cow that actually gives him the death stare.
March 28th, we brought them on, just right when the grass starts taking off here in Indiana. So they've been here since then, and I plan to have them graduate the program, if you will.
That's the greatest euphemism I've ever heard for slaughter.
in December. And
I never want to go to any school that you run.
Yeah.
Graduation is next spring.
Yep, they're doing well. They're studying hard, and they're eating a lot. So we're trying to get some LBs on these. Oh, yeah.
My biggest fear would be how your kids do with graduation day.
Yeah. So we try not to name it.
They were not raised on a farm. Like if you speak to people raised on a farm, you know, even the ones who do 4-H, they see animals as a means to an end, right? Like you raise chickens and you eat chickens, or you use them for their eggs, or you get cows, you use them for milk, or you sell them, or you like saying goodbye to an animal. Very easy.
Yeah.
Your kids were not raised on a farm.
Yeah, well, thankfully they're still small. So, you know, my 6-year-old I gotta like tiptoe around how I introduced this to my 6-year-old. But you know,
enjoying dinner, kid?
What?
How you liking dinner? You like steak?
Yeah. So, you know, like they're great. I love them. I do. I'm a little bit attached to them, but they aren't like a dog, you know. They don't really let you pet them. These ones are a little skittish, which I kind of prefer. If they were like coming up, giving me cow hugs, I'd have I don't know if I could ever do it to like a bottle calf that I fed a bottle to.
Right.
But so they're a little skittish. And if I go feed him in its pitch black out, the steer kind of looks at me a little funny every once in a while.
He had it coming, John.
Yeah.
He had it coming.
So every once in a while, I'm like, hey man, like, I'm probably going to eat you someday. Like, calm down, you know.
You're making this too easy.
Yeah. So no, but it's it will be a difficult. I mean, you know, but like they're fulfilling their purpose here.
Yeah,
I guess.
Right on.
Yeah, and
well, that's the question.
Yeah,
that's the big question here. Is you're an orthodontist. You're sort of like peak velocity of growth right now for your ortho practices. Mm-hmm. And yet you're doing all this cattle stuff, which is never going to make you close to the money that you're going to make from ortho. So explain to everybody out there, why does the side hustle matter? Why do you enjoy it? Because people out there are listening going, hey, this guy's crazy. He's spending all this time on cattle stuff and he should be focusing on his practice, blah, blah, blah. Explain to people why you're doing it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to wear a cowboy hat and boots and not, be able to be called a poser. I want to be legit, Glenn.
Yeah, I get it.
No, it's just a break from the daily grind of brackets and wires and aligners, and it's outside. I like being outside. And it's just kind of cool. There's something fulfilling about raising your own food. I don't know. There's just something cool. I guess I like doing it because I think it's cool. And
Yeah, I
life's
mean,
short.
it fills a part of your life
Yeah.
that you need filled, right? You're great. You love doing ortho. You love running a business, but it's not for the money. It's for the soul.
Yeah, exactly.
This next clip comes from an orthodontist who loves doing Clinchecks. She's actually set up a business around it because she knows that a lot of orthodontists don't have the time or inclination to want to do Clinchecks. Oh, she's an expert in a lot of things. In addition, she loves judo and tennis. Now, if you could combine those two together in one sport, that would be fun to watch. And in some crazy world, she wants her husband and me to compete in jiu-jitsu, and that is not going to happen. Sit on back and listen and enjoy the time with Dr. Maggie Barnard. People look at us a little bit crazy because for me it's jiu-jitsu, or at least it was jiu-jitsu. It seems like for the next 9 to 12 months there is no jiu-jitsu.
It will be again.
It will be. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
But people kind of look at us and like, why do you do this? Like, why do you want to compete, right? Why can't you just enjoy the ride? And my answer to them is that I think you're just built this way, right? Like,
I think so,
there's
too.
something about going one-on-one. There's something about the competition that sharpens the knife a little bit. It makes you a little bit better. And it makes it hard to just be good enough. You want to be better than good enough, right? And
Yeah.
what do you tell people when I have no doubt invariably they come to you and go, Maggie, what are you doing? Why are you doing competitive tennis? Why can't you just be a club player?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny because that's exactly what it is. Because you get there and you're like, okay, I'm having so much fun playing at the club level. And then one of your friends convinces you to do a tournament and you're hooked because you're like, I can get better. I can do this better. I can make myself better.
Right.
And it's more competition with yourself. Just like, our work is, how good can you get? And it's just a boatload of fun, to be honest, right? And
It is.
And it's fun sort of at this age, if I may, to say, okay, I can kick ass with younger people. There's something about it too, don't you think, Glenn, that you get out there? Like my husband does jiu-jitsu, so I look at it and I'm like, I know exactly where you're coming from because, I'm sure you're rolling with people who are much younger than you and you're going,
listen to her use the words, folks. Listen to her talk about rolling.
Yeah.
That's the wife of a jiu-jitsu guy right there. That's the woman you marry right there, people. I just want to say she's an orthodontist and she knows how to use the word rolling inappropriate in a sentence. By the way, how old is your husband, if you don't mind
So
asking?
my husband's in his late 50s.
Okay, so he's like me, right?
Yeah.
I'm 57. And does he compete?
So he used to. I think he's more sort of at the club level now, simply because he's had an injury like you, Glenn. So he kind of took it a little bit more mellow, but he's actually preparing for his next tournament.
Right on. Well, just tell him to get down to my weight class. That way we can actually compete against each other.
Oh, listen, for sure, because he would love to roll with you. See,
Yeah,
there's that word.
If he's ever in Dallas, anybody out there listening, whether you've ever rolled one day or you're a 5th degree black belt, if you find yourself in Dallas, don't even bring a gi. No gi or gi doesn't matter. You've always got an open spot at our gym. We'll roll. We'll have fun. And I've done it now with probably a half a dozen people who've come through Dallas. It's been fun.
What a blast. And you know what?
You have can't do it until probably March. Can't do anything until probably March is what my doctor's telling me. So you can come. I can watch you roll. But it's true. I think for most orthodontists, we're built pretty competitively.
I think so too.
And I think anything we find, if there's a competitive component to it, like how many orthodontists play in bands that actually play on a stage,
right?
As opposed to just sit in a garage and jam every now and then, and they'll play it off, and they'll say, "Well, we just play local bars." Well, what do you think I'm doing? You think I'm fighting for a world title? Yeah, at my age and weight class, I am, but you're taking it out of the private realm and bringing it into the public realm. Yes. And that at the end of the day makes you work that much harder. And so kudos to you for doing what you're doing, Maggie.
Thanks.
It's awesome.
And you know what? You too. And I think it's so exciting and it keeps our minds sharp and it keeps us fresh too. Because I think like that level of physical activity, I think it's also like problem solving, right? Because tennis and jiu-jitsu are very similar in the sense that you are problem solving. And I think that's part of what I like so much about it. Because you have to figure out where your opponent is in or how you're going to take them down in your case, right? And
right. So, whatever it might be, there's an algorithm. If I do this, then I expect them to do this.
100%.
And then I'll do this. And if they don't do what you expected, now you need to change the game plan rather rapidly.
Yes.
And again, I like to call jujitsu, I'm not just me, everybody calls it 3D chess,
Yes.
right? And chess and tennis is no different. And again, it's problem solving. And the biggest compliment I can get before we move on to the next section is I went to the physical therapist today for the first time, and he looked at me, and my surgeon said the same thing. And I'm 57.
Yeah.
He talking about what kind of graft I can get, and the biggest compliment I've gotten. He says, on younger folks we do this kind of graft, and older folks we do this kind of graft. But he says, you're so active. I'm just going to treat you like, you're 30 years old and to hear somebody tell me in my late 50s, without me saying a word, you're so active, that's my goal in life, right? Because a body in motion stays in motion. So folks out there, no matter where you are on your fitness journey, whether you're playing club tennis, never picked up a racket, don't do any martial arts, whatever, just start moving. And
I
if you're
agree
moving,
100%.
step it up a notch, make yourself uncomfortable, do something that you don't think you can do, but push the envelope. I guarantee you'll thank me later. You'll hate me right before you do it for the first time.
Totally.
You will ask, right? You ask, why am I doing this? Why am I putting this pressure on myself? I don't need to do this. This is stupid. I should pull out. But then you end up going through with it. And when it's all over, you look back and go, this is the greatest thing I could have done, right?
100%. That's what I feel too, and you kind of stumble onto these things. I don't know how you started jujitsu, but I kind of stumbled into tennis because my older daughter started playing. And one day she was like, well, maybe mom's not as good anymore to play with. And I was like, wait a minute, hang tight for a minute here. Let me take some classes and see what I can do. Right. And then
how do you do against her? How do you do against her?
I won't comment because she's going to be really angry.
Good.
No, she's fantastic. I'm only kidding. She's actually playing competitive tennis, and we're signing her up for all kinds of tournaments, and it's exciting, Glenn. Like, it's fun.
But she can't beat mom. But you can't beat mom.
She can now.
Okay. In every young man's life, there comes a day where he thinks he can take dad.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what it's in, but 99% of the time, the first time they try, they are woefully disappointed. In fact,
totally.
there is a real thing called old man strength. It exists.
Yes, it's a thing. You know what? My husband has a sweatshirt that actually says that. And it's jiu-jitsu, old man strength. No joke. It's fantastic.
Young people are scared to roll with older folks sometimes because they're just like, where did that come from? I said, don't worry. In 20 or 30 years, you'll have some strength too.
You'll know how to do that.
If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know that I partnered with Smile Doctors about 4+ years ago. And along the way, I've gotten a chance to learn a lot about private equity, about what happens behind the scenes. And I've had a chance to get to know some of the C-suite executives at Smile Doctors. Well, that's why I brought in Jay Hedrick. Jay Hedrick is the CEO of Smile Doctors. And I wanted him to give you an insight into the day-to-day life of a CEO of a company that's worth more than $1 billion. It is definitely not a luxurious life, but when you get to listen to him, you'll understand that CEOs are born. They are not made. He is a very special man, and I just hope you enjoy this clip. Different world, and so I agree with you 100%. My question for you, my next one is, I think many people think that CEOs, like every caricature in every movie, you think of like Will Ferrell from like Barbie, the CEO of Mattel. He's sitting in a room surrounded by 8 guys, and he's just rubber stamping things and screaming at people all day long. What is the really super glamorous day-to-day life of a CEO like?
Super glamorous.
Because I knew that glamorous would get a good kick out of you.
You know what? There are parts about the job that are absolutely amazing and wonderful and are incredibly fulfilling. Glamour is probably not a word I would use to choose, but there are a lot of times where you get to see other people succeed. You see them reach their goals, reach the part of their journey that they want to, and it's incredibly fulfilling, right? To be able to have an impact on others' lives as well as to, Scott Law says something. We're very fortunate to be able to do something that benefits our communities in a very favorable way and can benefit ourselves in a favorable way. And I feel that way about this role. But, on a day-to-day, it is a lot of meetings. It is a lot of decision-making. You can get some decision-making fatigue. But it's really about removing obstacles and trying to keep the North Star and keep everybody focused on that. And then remove obstacles that are keeping others from reaching that, as well as kind of keep that framework and keep those guardrails in place when people start to veer outside of what's driving us towards our North Star. So it's, to me, it's really about empowering and supporting, building the right team, setting the right strategy, and then removing the obstacles and empowering them to go out and achieve the objectives that we need to.
which sounds exactly like being the head of an ortho practice, just on a smaller scale,
Yeah.
right? Create that North Star, your core values, which I talk a lot about. Who do you want to serve? Why do you want to serve them? Make sure everybody on the team is on board on that. And you're just mentoring people. And I'm being blunt when I say this, you're mentoring a different type of individual than the type of individual that most orthodontists are mentoring. In terms of where they are educationally, where they are intellectually, where their life goals are potentially. But nonetheless, you're just doing it for a lot more hours in the week than we are.
Yeah, and I'm fortunate enough, we're a large enough organization. I've been at large enough organizations where you've got some people that have time in their seat and tenure in what they've been doing, and so it's a different type of mentoring, and it's a lot of fun.
Based on time value of money was the equity, right? And
Mhm.
the equity in private equity. Do you mind giving a quick definition of what private equity is to people so that again, you're aware of the fact that there's so many conversations around the OSO DSO space that I watch some of them and go, where did these people come up with this information? I was on a debate on another podcast of a friend of mine's, and the conversation was revolving where I was just trying to give facts, but there was so much conjecture coming from the other side, so many subjective statements coming from the other side that I'm just sitting there going, we don't have enough time for me even to start to spell these things. So I want to start with some definitions, if you don't mind, or
Yeah.
explanations. What is private equity if you're going to explain it to somebody in an elevator on a tall building?
Yeah, listen, so to me, you've got two different big types of equity, right? You've got public equity and private equity, and then you have full private companies. But private equity is generally one group of people who go out to other people and raise money. They create a fund. They then make an investment as the general partner in a business. Okay. And so, unlike a public equity company that has a lot of shareholders, okay, that all have a proxy vote and are represented by a board of directors, in a private equity company, you primarily have one or two votes. Okay. You might have, in our case, you might have doctors, you might have management, you might have others that have equity, but the votes they're closely held votes. They're held privately, right? By the private equity sponsor. I'd say a big myth about private equity is that they want to reduce costs and slash and burn, and they're gonna
Gordon Gecko.
yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, there are some of those out there. They are the minority because it's not a sustainable business plan, right? And so people like the sponsors in Smile Doctors and many of the other sponsors out there, they're trying to grow the business. And the reason that private equity might be better than public equity in growing the business is that they don't have to report quarterly. And so they can take a longer term view of growth. And so public equity, man, if you miss your quarterly numbers, they're looking for layoffs or they're looking for changes and they're actually more reactive. Whereas a private equity business can say, how do I maximize value over a 4, 5, 6, 7 year hold time to create a durable, sustainable business that someone else is going to want to buy and also believe there's another 4, 5, 6, 7 years of growth. And so they've got to continually do that and they got to build a great foundation. And so to me, private equity really is the successful private equity guys are growth investors. Okay. And they're trying to figure out how to create a unique, sustainable business.
Right. And I think you said it, but I'm just going to sort of dumb it down for lack of a better description. The most private equity that does pretty well for itself, I think the statistics I heard is that a top quartile private equity business typically turns between a 23 and a 42% annual rate of return. That's the
Yeah.
top 25%. And folks out there who know the rule of 72, you don't need to be a genius to figure out if you're getting 23% on the low end of that, you're talking approximately 3 years to double your money. So is the reason why they're so successful, or the way it was explained to me, was that because they don't have to report quarterly and because the money's given to them with the expectation of a set timeline. You can have this money, but I'm not going to pull it back out in a year or 2 or 3 because I'm not allowed. You're going to have this money for a 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 year time period. They have the ability to go do things when they're not looking over their shoulder, wondering about when their money is going to have to be liquid. Is that true?
No, that's true. And most of the LP commitments are actually 10 years, right? Because it takes them 2 to 3 years to deploy the capital. And then, 5 to 7 years perhaps before they unwind it. So most of the time it's fairly long-term money.
But
And
that's
so they don't
but
have
that's
to knee
different.
jerk.
Just to interrupt for a second, I'm sorry, but that 10-year timeline is not the same as the timeline that it would take for typically for an
No.
equity event, which we'll get to in a minute, but I just wanted to put that on the shelf for right now.
Yeah, so that's the amount of time. If I had $100 and I went to a private equity firm and gave them my $100, I would expect to see my return sometime in the 7, 8, 9, 10 year range. If a private equity, their horizon for investing in businesses is tighter, but it takes them a period of time to diligence and find the company. So once they've got my $100, they can't spend it on day one. It might take them 3 years to figure out what they want to do to spend my $100 on, and then they need 5 years to create value, and then they go out and they sell that business and they return me my $200, my $300.
Right. And one of the holy grails in orthodontics is the ability to be able to take aligners and print them out of our practices with no intermediary. It's something that's actually possible now. I'm going to let you listen to Mark and Nathan from Voxel Dental as they talk to you a little bit about direct print technology and what goes into that printing process. Enjoy. Who wants to talk a little bit about direct print aligners?
I could talk about it, Glenn. Absolutely.
Go get it, Mark.
What you got? The thing that we've always hung our hat on at Voxel is finding new and innovative technologies to try to help train and teach and support, educate the market. We've always kind of looked for things that maybe the first 10 or 20% might like to jump on and get involved. We were actually one of the first, if not the first, 3D printer distributor out there, and have hung our hat on our experiences with that. So for years, of course, doctors always ask us, we train them to print models to make the thermoform, Essex or in-house traditional aligners. We've always heard the question, when can I print these directly? And that's been going on for years. Well, the technology is one thing with the printer. The resins have been another thing that have to be created in order to help and make some tooth movement, efficient that you're looking to accomplish. The other thing, because I'll talk a little bit more about who we decided to partner up with in this space as we were looking at what does Voxel feel is the best system out there. Is a company called LuxCreo. And we actually started talking to them back in 2019 out of Asia, where they manufacture everything. They have offices in Chicago and out in San Francisco area. And we've been visiting them for the longest time. We've had the retainers and the aligners in our mouths. The thing that has held us up until last year was the practicality of the clicks, the workflow. Can this actually be accomplished in the office? And some of the things that have happened more recently from a click standpoint have made the software that's been created to try and accomplish these things in the workflow much more doable, very doable for the orthodontic office. And that's one reason why we finally, at middle last year, actually before that, around the AAO, decided to actually bring LuxCreo on, because we felt that digital workflow piece was at a point that we could train and teach staff and do things efficiently to get that final aligner to deliver.
So do you mind talking a little bit about it, about what LuxCreo really is and how it works?
Yeah, so LuxCreo, printer, digital light projection, light engine, very solid printer, which actually does a number of different applications in the dental space. But essentially, anytime that you're thinking about printing, of course, what am I looking to print? With aligners, of course, we need something that is going to move the teeth, right? So if we're looking at the doctor designing in a U-Lab or some other tooth movement engine, arch form, what have you, U-Lab's definitely a popular one out there that's doing some integration aspects with the LuxCreo. But that's where it first comes about, Glenn, where you do your tooth design, and then an easy way to import those STL files and the trim line files that you're going to bring into the LuxCreo design software. And when you think about a system, because we have looked at other companies that just make a clear aligner resin that can be printed on other printers, they may be post-processed in a different way, not the traditional isopropyl alcohol bath and cure. But we wanted to keep it simple. So you're going to bring the stage files into the Lux design and slice them in the LuxFlow software. And they've created some AI functions that make it very easy, one-click workflows, we call them, that are going to look at those tooth movement, those stage files, create the actual aligner shell that is going to be generated, supported on the build plate in the software. Some other aspects that you can do, which is really cool when it comes to direct print aligners, that you can thicken certain areas of the aligner to try to create some different type of force movements. Inevitably, a digitally fit aligner is going to hug that tooth better. So we already see some doctors who have maybe designed in ULab and placed an attachment for a particular type movement that they find that they don't have to place that same attachment in that similar case with a direct print aligner. And in a matter of about 2 hours, once you've designed and set up your print job, you're going to be able to print, run through all the post-processing, and have up to 12 aligners printed at one time, whether that's 5 upper, 5 lower, 12 upper, whatever you're looking to do in your workflow or deliver to that patient. You're ready to rock.
Anybody who's listened to my podcast for a while knows that I'm a huge fan of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. What makes it unique, it's not just a turnkey system. You have to work it and understand it and learn from it. And you have to understand a few things. You're going to learn what boulders are. You have to rethink your team meetings and what it means within the EOS structure. And what's the difference between education and creativity? There's a lot going on in this clip, and I want you to listen to it and learn a little bit more about a system that's not only helped me better run my businesses, but has been the foundation, or at least one of the foundations, that helped me develop my one-on-one top 1% coaching program. Take a listen, and I hope you enjoy. You know, I've really taken a more hands-on approach recently because I've had a lot of turnover with my team, people going on to college or dental school or any number of things, and I've had to rebuild my team a little bit. And so I've really dove down deep back into my EOS systems for running meetings. And you may have a way that you like to run a meeting, and I'm not going to tell you right now how you should run your meeting. But, you know, the cadence right now is once every 2 weeks. The things I've learned that I want to share with you from 30 plus years of running meetings, everything from Patrick Lencioni's, Death by Meeting, which is a book you have to read, or at least listen to, about why meetings matter and the different types of meetings, to all the stuff I've talked about with EOS and how you run a leadership meeting, a level 10 meeting, and what have you. What's really interesting is you'll find that if you engage your team in these meetings in a way that makes them the center of the meeting, it changes everything. And when I had a conversation with them, for instance, yesterday about our rocks and our boulders. And I'll just get into that for a minute or two because I don't want to take too long on this. But we talked about our boulders. And the boulders are this. And this is where I really got some good help from them. I said, look, what things can we do right now that if we accomplish them in 90 days, we'll have a radically different practice? And what's interesting, and I think you know this already, but it's worth mentioning, is your team has generally never been forced to think. Now, we talk to them a great deal about, hey, be a thinker, not a doer. And then many of us give them policies and systems they have to adhere to, and now they don't think, they just do. So it's a beautiful exercise to get them outside the box and get them to start thinking, because education and creativity don't necessarily go hand in hand. You can have somebody who barely finished high school who can be remarkably creative, and somebody who has a PhD from Harvard or MIT who can't think outside the lines, right? So I started to bring them into the conversation saying, let's think about this problem. And the whole point of this post today is to let you know, you need to take the time to train your team in how to think and do cognitive thought, and how to develop cogent thoughts that allow them to do more than you've ever asked them before, because they'll embrace it if you do. If you make them a part of the process, and Patrick Lencioni talks a great deal about this in his book, if you give them the ability to help you think through a problem, they will do a great job of helping you many of the time. But they're not used to it. So you're going to see some weird stuff. You're going to hear some crazy things. You're going to see them when you run a treatment planning session for orthodontists, which I've done many times. Everybody goes immediately to the actual treatment plan and nobody stops to diagnose, right? We should do this, we should do that. So when they start getting a problem list, instead they're starting to give you how to solve it, which is what you've asked them to do traditionally. So what I'm getting at here in this whole long-winded thing is, bring your team into the conversation and help guide the conversation with more patience than you've ever had, to teach them how to think properly, how to wrap their heads around the problem properly. Give them a lifeline to help along with that, and you'll be blown away with what happens over time. Yes, we all have those team members who we just want to go, oh, don't you get it? But oftentimes, those are the same people who, if you let them out of the box, so to speak, and let them start thinking creatively, the ideas they come up with are remarkable. Anybody who knows Dr. Bruce McFarlane knows what an innovator and amazing human being he is. He really is one of my favorite people on planet Earth. When I spend time with him, I go away with a smile on my face and always knowing more than when I began. And in this clip, you're going to listen talk a little bit about the fact how he has two practices. Not a big deal, right? It is when you have two practices in two totally different countries. So take a listen to him and let him talk to you a little bit about the digital boutique practice versus the big box practice and what that really means. Actually talk a little bit about himself because here I am reminiscing about beer in Toronto. So tell us a little bit about, you have such an intricate story considering where you practice now, both in the US and in Canada. You have practices in both. You're one of the few people I know who does that. Let's start here. Tell everybody a little bit about how you ended up where you are today, however you want to take us there.
Okay. So thank you, Glenn. And I think my story is mainly, I've always been kind of chasing the latest thing. And that has led me in orthodontics to some great directions, including, of course, the advent of, I was way back even as straight wire was getting to be a thing. And then, of course, along came clear aligners. And so I think that my path has always been trying to be on the leading or sometimes bleeding edge of all of that. And it's just made for such an exciting career. My how did you say binational or multinational?
Semi-national.
Binational, okay, you could say that.
All I know is you're paying taxes to both Canada and the US. You're going to work till you're 100. And every day you make $1, you owe $1.07 to somebody.
I do. But so clearly you don't do this for the money, but no. So I it's crazy, but I was in grade 12. That's what we say in Canada. I think it's 12th grade in the United States. And I went on a high school trip, and I went to San Diego, California, and I looked around and I said, someday I'm going to live here. And it took a while, for sure. And like you, Glenn, I practiced a while as a general dentist, and then went back to graduate school in London, Ontario, which is close to Toronto. You'll probably recall. And then that was 33 years ago. And it's hard to believe, actually.
Wow.
And so the path that I've taken has always been sort of to try and be on the edge of the latest technology and try and learn it and be really proficient in it. And that's really kept the fire in my belly. And of course, up until this very day, it continues to drive me. I do indeed have two practices in Ontario, Canada, and one in La Jolla, California now. So I commute. Wow. Yeah. So the two secrets to be able to do that. One is a total embrace of digital orthodontics, as in absolutely everything is digital. I can pretty well do everything except, IPR remotely.
Please put your face in the machine and hold still.
Right. So the joke is, I come to town and I'm the stripper. But
yeah, between teeth.
Between teeth. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Nothing related to your previous story about Buffalo to Toronto. And then the other secret is amazing people on the ground in all three of those places. And I've been so fortunate, Glenn. I know these days it's trickier to find talented individuals, inspire them, hold on to them, and have them buy into your dream. But in that regard, I've been so fortunate. So that has allowed me a wonderful life. So it's been time in Ontario and California, but mostly on airplanes.
Yeah, and the good, you need a private jet.
Right, it's
just digital ortho.
Yes.
right? You do digital art. Can you explain to everybody what that really means in your practices?
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. That too has been an evolution. My first practice was a traditional 11 chair, 15 team analog practice, and I figured out that I was just chasing my tail all day, and of course got to the point where it couldn't actually be sold to a single individual because it became such a monster. So I sold it to a DSO, and that was another story that we could save for another day. But then I made this very conscious decision of being an absolute sort of boutique style. And here in Kenora, I have 3 team members. I have 4 chairs, and I actually, it's delightful. I actually sit with a child and I shoot the breeze and I say, and we talk about, hockey, of course, in Canada. And it's such a refreshingly wonderful way to practice. Part of it is when I'm not here, I have talented individuals in Ontario. Hygienists can work independently. So when I'm not here, they will gather all of my records, and they can do other duties on their own as well, under my sort of standing orders or specific orders. And so quite often I've actually not even met the patient by the time they're started.
Wow.
Because and I thought at first it was going to be an issue because people might be concerned that, who is this guy? Is he AI or is he? But it turns out that the amount of flexibility, therefore, that we're allowed to offer people, like you don't just have to come when McFarlane's there. You can come another time, get all of your scans, and of course, the given with digital ortho is that every record is digital as well, of course,
Right.
and nothing sort of paper or analog or alginated or anything like that. And so therefore I can be anywhere in the world, literally, that has a Wi-Fi connection. And I can do what I think is a great job of setting up the cases, communicating with the patient, and then still I see them physically, of course, but sometimes not right at the beginning.
Brian Wright is one of the brightest minds in orthodontics today. He's had the opportunity to not only work, but to help grow some of the most innovative practices on the planet. So when he's talking a little bit about what elite practices do that many others don't, you definitely want to listen. He'll talk about things like the importance of patient experience in practice success and differentiating, most importantly, your clinical skill from your business skill. You've heard me talk a great deal about that in the past, but now let's listen to Brian Wright.
So I think people are looking for the wrong things when they need to be looking inside their doors. It's just a challenge to get people to have that mindset. When you train your team on unique skill sets that would make them successful in any business outside of the ortho bubble, when you train them on those skill sets, it is absolutely amazing what happens. And it's been a fun ride.
You work with a lot of names that I know you can't say right now, but a lot of names of people who everybody listening sees on stage. Some of the heavy hitters work with you, and some people with really big practices have gotten there in large part because of what you've taught them. But let's talk about experience just a minute or two, if you don't mind. So I always like to tell whenever I train a TC, and that's what I did for years, is I would travel the world teaching clinical photography. And I learned after teaching clinical photography as a restorative dentist, it was one thing to have great images, and everybody in ortho, and you can appreciate this, Brian, they flock to clinical information like moths to a flame, right? I could say in one hand, I've got the secret to making $5 million a year and a 10-step program guaranteed to get you, $5 million a year cash money. And on the other hand, I'm going to show you how to correct class 2s every time. Even though they know how to correct class 2s every time, most of them, while they won't admit it right now when they hear this, would instantly go to the clinical side over the money side all day long for a whole variety of reasons, right? And so
Yep.
when I had great clinical images, that's what they wanted to hear. But I used that as a hook to teach them how to get better case acceptance. Because here I was, a restorative dentist, routinely getting people to say yes to $60, $70, $80,000 cases. And it starts with what you're talking about, experience.
Yep.
So I always teach every one of my new TCs when they come in that their job is never to talk dentistry. Don't talk dentistry at all. Your job is to be that server at the restaurant that everybody loves so much, they just want dinner to keep going. And they want to listen to your suggestions. They want to buy what you have to sell, and they like you. So your job is simply to have people like you and get a great vibe from what's going on.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what are some examples of places where people mistake what they're doing for a good experience? And I'm sorry, I know it's a broad question, but I want people out there to hear that they go, oh, I don't need to know this. What are some of the things you see that people accidentally are doing that gets in their own way?
5-hour presentation coming in the shortest amount of time. Because
Yeah,
you
can
said
you
a lot
teach
of the
me
things we teach.
teach me the entire Bible while I stand on one foot?
Yeah, right now. So
Yeah.
I credit. So, what we teach is going to attract forward thinking people. It just is. So if we pick this up and we recreated it in the restaurant space, we're going to attract Guy Fieri, Bobby Flay, and Gordon Ramsay. Just like we've done in orthodontics, attracting basically any doctor you see that's on stage or faculty for a line on the dental monitoring speakers, the orthophi speakers, they're almost all our customers. But trying to get the masses to think the way they do is really difficult. And again, this just isn't orthodontists, or this is any entrepreneur, business owner on the planet.
Right.
And there's so like I said earlier, there's so many mistakes people make when thinking experience. But let me break it down this way. Every business has two experiences, right? So in your world, you've got the clinical experience, but you also have the practice experience, but then you also have all the non-clinical, the business experiences, how people are spoken to on the phones, the content you're creating on your digital marketing channels. When people type in Invisalign as an example, what does your website look like? Your YouTube station? Is there content that makes you different and unique compared to the other 20 places I could call? And kind of off the cuff, just real thinking about this. And this is something that I think is an important lesson for everybody. Two things is one, when you become, and I know this terminology isn't positive, but when you become commoditized. So there's 6 Italian restaurants within 20 miles of your house or 10 minutes of your house. The restaurant that has the best food no longer wins. That, of course, is part of the recipe and a very, very important part of the recipe. But the person that ends up winning that game is the culture, is their digital marketing content, how you just described. Can the waiters upsell the table while the table feels really damn good about it? Do they know how to present desserts in a way to get somebody to buy the most expensive one that otherwise wouldn't have bought one at all? How do you get them to sell and present the specials in a way to get each person to buy a $20 more expensive special for the evening rather than the on menu? And there's an art to all of that. But it's critically important to understand that the clinical skill sets, just like the chef abilities, is not enough when you're commoditized to win at the highest possible levels. The other piece, and I see this with clinicians, and I fall into it. So I fly planes, have my license, and then being like I said, being an umpire in professional baseball, I can pilot nerd you all day long. I can, rule book nerd you all day long. But the problem is just like with all of you, is that whatever passion you have doesn't mean the person that you're talking to has that same passion.
Exactly.
And if they do, I mean, that's usually, you call that person a friend a lot of times, right? You have things in common, you talk about the same stuff, blah, blah, blah. But, if you become in the clinical weeds, that's a good way to talk people out of buying from you. And that's where, I think we're down to earth people. I'm proud to have the biggest names in this industry as customers. It's something I'm really proud of. We have a 99% customer retention rate. We rarely lose them. And I'm proud of it. But we're down to earth, and I just think that it's really, really hard to convince the masses in any industry that there's really 3 things that you need to kick butt, no matter what business you are. And you've got to have a great culture, which means your leadership team has to have ongoing training on how to be great leaders. You've got to commit to training your people in a way that other people business, and that's what, forget orthodontists, what other people business, people over procedure operation is out there. You've got to train your team how to interact in a way that other people won't. And you've got to commit to putting in the work to creating digital marketing content that makes you unique. And everyone's business is a story. A restaurant has it because we're on that topic, and you all as orthodontists and all the other doctors that might be listening, you're a story. Your culture starts that story. Your digital marketing is another chapter. Your new patient phone call is another chapter. What happens before they show up, when they show up, all of these are their own unique individual businesses. And we just, with New Patient Group, happen to take that journey under one roof and help you with every one of those chapters. You're not required to get the whole thing, but that's the reason why I founded the company is every consumer interaction, make sure your brand is advancing forward. Because all it takes is one negative interaction, or not even negative. There's just sometimes people don't know what to say. They don't know what they don't know. So they may be saying things that cost them sale. And you can't, your practice management software doesn't spit out the lost opportunities, right? It spits out data that you can see, but there's hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss in every small business out there that they can't put their finger on. It's just very difficult to get people thinking inside their doors rather than outside.
You need energy to implement this. You can't do this like, hey, everybody, we got an idea today. We're going to go ahead and we're going to really step up our game, and it's going to be amazing. And Susie here is going to run it, right? You need to lead, right?
Yep.
Do you get a lot of people? Let me rephrase the question. I'm going to lead the witness here, because in your line of work, in my line of work, we work with a lot of orthodontists, and we know how it works. And you probably get a huge amount of people who go, yeah, I want more patients. Yeah, I want to be able to charge more. Yeah, I want to have a great, and then you tell them what has to happen. And you go, oh,
Yep.
I didn't realize it would take that much work. I didn't know it would cost that. When I was a restorative dentist, I firmly believed in the high price, boutique, low volume model. But over the last several years, I think there have been changes in the industry that have caused that model to potentially go the way of the dinosaur. Now, there are options out there to have amazing practices, but I want to talk to you a little bit about leveraging technology and outsourcing, how to do 70 patients a day with low stress, and easily achieving a $3 million a year practice on 3 days a week. Don't believe me? Reach out to me. We'll talk about it. But listen to this clip, and I hope there's a little bit of insight in there to motivate you a little bit more. And I just want to be crystal clear. I think the days of, and there are some older docs out there who will espouse how the days of building your dream practice from scratch and seeing, 20, 30 patients a day and, having a nice slow-paced practice and being the most expensive in the neighborhood, that they're still around. And I will argue vehemently to the grave and tell you, don't do it. Those days are long gone. Sounds great. Who wouldn't want to have I wouldn't want to have a low volume practice. I'd go insane. I'm not bending wires like Tweed back in the day. I don't need 20. If I had 20 patients a day for a full day, I don't know what I would do with myself. I need way more therapy than I already go through. My point here is you can be the most expensive in your community and you can do the best care in your community. And that's not mutually exclusive from a busy day. I would say the old saying, make hay while the sun shines, you're not gonna be able to work the rest of your life. And anybody who says to you that running a busy practice is super stressful or way more stressful than running a non-busy practice or non-volume practice is out of their mind. Because I've been there, I've run both. I had the most expensive restorative fees of anybody I knew when I was a restorative dentist. And I still did volume and I did it well. And I used the best labs and I spent the most money on team members and help. But what I'm getting at here is with technology being what it is, with outsourcing being what it is, you can run a 50, 60, 70, even 80 patient a day practice and not get burned out and not get stressed out and benefit from the finances of doing that. And you can do that and be the most expensive in the community. You don't need to do $2,400 braces to do, a thriving active practice. And I'm not sitting here telling you should run 130, 140 people a day. And if that's what you want, God bless you. That is not what I want. But you can run a $3 million a year practice, seeing probably 70 patients a day, 60 to 70 patients a day, or maybe less on 3 days a week. Yeah, you heard me say that right. You can run a $3 million a year practice, if not more, considerably more, on 3 days a week, seeing 60 to 70 patients a day, maybe less, right? Why? Because I can tell you from personal experience that it's possible. You can do it. Me and my partner, Doug Shaw, have done it. You don't need to be working 5 days a week, 100 patients a day. Be wise with your technology. Be wise with the courses you take. Be wise with the CE you go to. Be wise with the consultants you bring in. And most importantly, don't buy into any limitations that other people try to sell you on and say, to make a ton of money with low overhead, you need to see 30 patients a day. I know someone personally whose overhead is in their 30s, who's seeing a ton of patients per day, loves every second of it, making a huge living, and not killing themselves, and really happy. So again, don't be sold on this whole idea that you need to have a really low volume kind of practice to raise your fees and be where you want it to be. Do great work, take great courses, hone your craft, and more importantly, you have enough skill already to be the best orthodontist in your community if you put your mind to it. What you don't have are the management and leadership skills. So hone that. You do that, folks, you will be unstoppable. And when you think about orthodontics in general, a lot of Americans think that the United States is the center of everything. But don't be fooled. There are remarkable clinicians and practices outside the US. In this next clip, we're going to get a chance to listen a little bit to Dr. Stephen Saman from Australia, who has a 99% aligner practice. He uses technology in ways that many of us wish we could. And he's going to teach you a couple of secrets about what's made him successful and be able to do that kind of practice. So take a listen and enjoy.
I was at a conference, an Australian orthodontic conference in 2016, as I recall, and in Melbourne. And Philippe Salah was there, who's the founder, of course, of Dental Monitoring. And he was there at a little booth, and no one was really dropping by to talk to him. And I won't say I went over there because I felt sorry for him. I went over there because I was genuinely intrigued, and I've always got an open mind to anything. If there's new technology, I want to know about it. I pride myself on having the latest and greatest technology for my patients. And so this was new, and I thought, well, what's this all about? And so I went up to him and I said, what's this all about? And we spent a good hour or two just talking about his journey and his story. And again, I just had that inside me, that little voice that said, hey, Steve, you got to get onto this. This is awesome. And this will, again, free up your time. This will leverage your business and be able to be a great, great blessing to your patients, so that you can sort of, give them more of your time without having them come into the office more. And so that's where it started for me. And it didn't come out to Australia for a number of months. It was sort of like a soft launch for them. But then we picked it up in 2017 and have been using it ever since. So I'm pretty sure I'm the longest user of dental monitoring, one of the longest users of it in the world. And we actually got an award for being like the largest user of dental monitoring in the world. I remember Philippe presented me that. He said, you are the number one doctor in the world using dental monitoring, which back then maybe didn't mean a lot because it was still quite new. But I thought that was kind of cool because we had about 1,200-1,400 patients on dental monitoring back then. We went all in, and that's the kind of guy I am. I don't dabble, and I think that's probably a key thing to share with the audience too. Is if you're going to do something well, you can't dabble. I know you've talked about this, Glenn, so many times.
And yet nobody listens, Steve. Well, I don't want to say nobody because I know you're listening, but the people who need that message the most might hear it right now, and they're still not going to listen to it. And they're going to make up excuses like it's about Invisalign or it's about, dental monitoring or some other outsourcing, and miss the point that when you're stuck in the middle of any technology, if you say, I'm going to use dental monitoring on 10% of my patients, what does it do for you? I mean, sure, those 10%, great, wonderful. They're getting great dental monitoring, but you're not seeing less patients. You're not working with less staff. You're not becoming significantly more efficient. So you don't get to reap the rewards of the technological innovation. When you go all in, go ask like a person like you or a Dave Boschkin or a Scott Runnels, who, go ask Bob Skopek. I mean, out of Chicago area. I mean, the guy, I think, went from like 10 or 12 staff members to 2. The idea, he's speaking at Summit on efficiencies and what have you. I think he has 2 team members because he went all in on technology. So again, you brought up a great topic that I'm passionate about. And I'm sorry for stealing your thunder there, but I want
Not
to
at all.
ask this. Not only are you almost entirely Invisalign, not only are you one of the biggest users of DM in the world, you're also, I'm proud to admit, a remote response user. You allow us to manage your dashboard. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Has it been good for you? Have you enjoyed it?
Absolutely. Years ago, I actually thought about, I even registered a business name and everything for what you've done. But I didn't have, unfortunately, the knack and the ability. So kudos to you, Glenn. Big shout out to you for doing that. As soon as I heard about it, I thought, I don't feel like I'm very competitive. I just stay in my own lane and I just do my own thing. And so when I see something come along, I don't think, oh, gee, I've got to compete with that and try and do better. I'm just humble enough, thankfully, to adopt that technology. So when I heard that you'd already done this wonderful thing and come up with remote response, I thought that's a no-brainer to me. That's the MBA inside me said, you need to jump on that. And so I did. This is a big thing that really bugs me when I talk to, you mentioned before, when I talk to other orthodontists, like about this, what do we talk about? It's amazing how many of them don't consider their own time and their own costs.
Right.
I know you bring this up a lot, but it just bugs me so much. They'll say, oh, I like to make my own aligners. Like, they're into the aligner concept. They understand that. They want to go aligners, but I'll just make my own. Well done to you, but now you're going to have to buy all these printers and have all these technicians and hope they're never sick and make sure they're making them on time. All they're counting is the cost of the plastic or the per unit cost of their printer. They're still forgetting a fundamental cost, which is their own time in designing and treatment planning. Our time is the most expensive time. So anything at all that would reduce the doctor time, even if it means like use ChatGPT. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
If you're not using ChatGPT, I'm sorry to say this, but you're a fool. Can I say that? You're a bloody fool. That's what we say in Australia. You're a bloody fool.
You're a bloody fool. And
that's right.
The funny part about ChatGPT, it boggles my mind, Stephen, because you and I are two of similar ilk, is like the things I use it for. A quick example. I'm trying to develop a platinum coaching program to help orthodontists really boost their revenue tremendously and cut their overhead and like every aspect of a practice one-on-one with just me. And, if you want to come up with every item that you're going to go through in a year, do you know what a daunting task that is to come up with a list of? So what I did is I came up with about 75 things that I really feel are key points in a practice that you need to master to have a really successful practice. And then I just put it in the ChatGPT and said, okay, of these 75 things, give me a list of 10 things within each one that I should be aware of. Now I can go in there now and rip apart and take apart what's there, but just that alone saved me probably 5 to 10 hours of work. And it did it better than I would because it came up with things that I wouldn't have thought of. Sure, you don't use that as your final outcome, but as a starting point to say, good, of these 10, 5 of them are not really that good, but I'll keep those other 5. And by the way, it reminded me of 6, 7, and 8. And so ChatGPT, everybody listening right now, if you don't know how to use ChatGPT, all you have to do is message me on Facebook, and I will make sure that we figure out a way to make sure you learn how to use this technology effectively, literally every single day. Sorry, Stephen, back to our continued program. How would you like to work less and smile more? Well, that's the topic of this next clip. It's Dr. Megan Lacornu, who is an innovator, and she's truly inspirational. I want you to remember a very famous saying that we've learned. Money comes and goes, but time only goes. You have to have a positive attitude and an amazing relationship with your team. So sit back, listen, and enjoy Dr. Megan Lacornu as she gives you some principles to help live a better practice life. You have every right to do the practice you want to do. And as the old saying goes, you do you. But if you want to lower your stress, when I talk to people like you, Megan, and other people I interview on this show, a theme that runs across it always, and I hope people out there are listening to it, is that, again, to quote my really good friend Chris Trockle out of Oklahoma, he had one of the most incredible sayings, so much so it was part of my RD group, we ended up putting it on these hourglasses, right, that we had made for everybody one year. And I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well here, but it says, remember, money comes and goes, time only goes, right? Like, it's such an incredible comment. You'll never, ever have anything in life that buys you more time.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's impossible, obviously. Money, you will get more and you will get less of it. So what's the big deal? Get rid of some money and buy yourself some time, because that leads us into the next part of your life, which is your quality of life outside the office. Because what I think is important to tell people is, what's your attitude about ortho when you're not in the office?
Yeah. Well, what's fun about it is, like, a great example is because we use systems that reduce the stress, not just of the doctor, but the team, it allows us to build a rapport with each other. And so, I'm on vacation. I was hiking Machu Picchu, and my team is literally like texting me, and they're just like, oh my gosh, send us photos, and like, don't come, and their whole thing is, don't come back too soon. Don't even think about work. And, and they're like, but also you're not allowed to stay there. And,
but you're not getting a ton of text messages go, hey, by the way, so-and-so called and they have a problem. Can you call them back?
Not one message.
Right, your team knows what the core value is for you,
Yeah.
right? They have to respect your time, and they can handle whatever comes in any way until you're back.
Yep. And they're literally like excited for like the adventures, and I can't wait to hear about it. And we've developed a relationship where it's a fun, really positive work environment. I mean, how many people reach out to their boss because they want to hear how they're doing on their vacation, but literally as like friendly. Like, I mean, that's the culture that we have fostered, which is not possible if I was going to work and stressed out every day. And then when we're stressed, even if we don't mean to take it out on our team, they're feeling it. And you're not going to be able to create a culture like that, Instead, I got back, from the airport a little bit late. I didn't get as much sleep, and I woke up and I felt like this surge of energy going to the practice. Like, all right, here we go. Summer's here. And I'm like, all right, guys, give me the lowdown. And they're like, well, today we have this many starts and we're going to do this. And, we're excited to have you back. And how are you feeling? And, at the time, my significant other went hiking with me for the first time. They're like, is he still in your life now after that? Yes, I didn't kill him.
You didn't kill him. You didn't throw him off a ravine.
Didn't throw him off.
Yeah. But again, there's so many lessons you're teaching, and I'm so excited about having you at Summit, because this is just pearls. This is gold you're giving everybody.
Yeah.
Because the takeaway message here, folks, if you have a team that you don't love, right? Your team's driving you crazy. They're downers, Debbie Down, whatever. You didn't hire based off core values.
Yeah.
You hired the wrong people, number one. That goes without saying, Megan, that you hire people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
If they have low energy at the interview, I have no doubt they're never making it into your office.
Yeah, well, they have low energy. I mean, sometimes people will have stuff going on, and it's how do we get them out of that? And if they're constantly bombarded with stress, then we're not going to help get them out of that. And if I notice a staff member or employee who is really seeming like their energy is going down, their productivity is going down, I pull them aside. We really show that they care. But I'll even have team members read. I'm sure everyone here has read The Energy Bus. If they start to
Flow
down. Yeah, I'll have them read that. I'm like, hey, I want you to read this. I'm going to buy it for you as an audiobook. And then I want to discuss this with you because I'm noticing this in you and I want to hear what you say after. And I take some one-on-one time. But how do I free myself up to be able to be available for this one-on-one time? Unless I create systems that give me the freedom to do that, I wouldn't be able to have the time in my day to do it, because time is our commodity. And I need time to be able to pour into the people, pour into patients, and not feel drained by it.
Amen. And again, the second point I was going to make was, I will guarantee you that you never, ever show up at the office in the morning. Hey, how you doing today, Dr. Lacornu? Oh,
yeah.
I'm so tired. I had a tough night, guys. I'm going to do my best. I hope today. I never walk in like that. You never walk in that. And there are people out there who have teams that are depressed or down or stressed, and they don't realize it starts when they walk through the door.
Yeah.
You'd better fake it till you make it, folks.
Yep.
If you're walking in the room, in the door, and you're saying, yeah, I just need your help today, guys. I had a tough night. No.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Don't walk through that door until you are ready to pump your team up through the ceiling.
Yep.
Because if you walk in there like, hey, yeah, it's kind of a tough night. I don't want to talk about it, but I'm here. I'll make it work. Like, that's not what your team needs to hear in the morning. And if that's not who you are, well, get over it. Okay. Because would you agree with me, Megan?
I call it the Dr. Megan show. I'm like, all right, like, here we go. So as I'm getting into work, I'm like, here we go. The show's on. And you got to amp yourself up because it does start from you and the energy trickles down. And I don't know, we got to lead by example. And if the team is like, oh, well, this is the example, this is the energy, they're going to come up and match it.
Yeah. And if you're not built like that, again, I'm going to say it again, folks. If you are not built like that, you better fake it. Okay. And if you say, well, I don't want to be fake. Well, in this case, you have to be fake because nobody's ever going to complain about somebody being fake happy. It's not like you're faking being honest or, faking not being a drug user, right? You're faking being happy. And so would you agree, Megan, if I told her, do it for 1 month?
Yeah.
Just every time you walk in that office, you are happy, happy, upbeat, positive. Good things are going to happen today, people. You just got to believe. For the first week, your team is not going to know who you are, and they're not going to believe you. The second week, they'll start believing you, and all of a sudden, good things are going to start happening in your practice just because you're showing them that this is the way we lead our life. Would you agree?
I mean, it's scientifically proven. Studies show that if you smile, even if you're not feeling it, it starts rewiring your brain to secrete more serotonin, more of all these endorphins that like amp you up. So you fake it, then it starts to actually become real. So that's already scientifically proven. So we know that.
Don't walk through the door of your office looking like this.
Yeah.
She told me to smile. Might not work so well. But the point here is everybody listening, reevaluate and don't believe that you're always happy. Okay. Yeah. A lot of you out there are not, and you don't realize it. Yeah. So find somebody in your office who you respect and care about, which I hope you have at least one, and pull them aside and go, hey, when I walk through the door in the morning, do I lift up everybody? Do I do nothing, or do I bring everybody down? It can't be the latter two. It has to be number one. You need to be lifting people up. Doesn't mean always every moment of every day, but you should be upbeat and positive at the very least at the beginning of the day. And if you do that, a lot of your staff problems will disappear rather quickly, I promise.
Yeah. And I think the thing for me was like starting to identify what were the things that drained me. So we go to the energy bus. That book is so great. It's like, okay, this concept that, if you start to get drained, you become an energy vampire. So I was like, well, if I'm starting to feel that way, why? What is draining me? And then my way of managing that was to then throw technologies to eliminate whatever those things that were draining me. So if I'm stressed out sitting at a chair for longer than 5 minutes because now other people need me and I can't be everywhere, then I need to come up with systems where I don't have to be at a chair longer than 5 minutes. If I get stressed out over, something happening where we have disorganization and things are missed, well, then I need to bring in certain technology so that things are organized and accountability is there. And then the ROI on those technologies is not just like, oh, is this increasing efficiencies to increase bottom line of the practice, but the ROI is actually improving the doctor's temperament and quality of life because now they're not stressed, which then trickles to the team and helps you grow your practice. So expend money on technologies that are going to reduce your stresses and your team stresses.
It sounds so easy. And if it's part of your life, it is. But for many people out there, it's not a daily ritual for them. And so develop those systems, identify the things that drive you crazy. And I've always talked about this, that, you need to create a 4-quadrant box where the top 2 are things that you like and don't like, and things that you're good at and not good at. And you need to get rid of everything in your life except the stuff you like and you're good at, period. That's the way you should live. Delegate everything else. Get rid of the stuff you don't like that you're no good at, like preparing your taxes. Get rid of it. Give it to somebody else, right? And too often, people are already established for 3, 5, 7 years. They're in that startup mindset where you really need to be doing everything yourself, right? It's okay, people. If you don't love it, don't do it. It's easy. And stay in the high passion, high knowledge quadrant. And there are things you might like doing that you're not good at, So invest time to become good at those things, but live your life like Megan does, like I do, in your high passion, high knowledge zone. So that way everything else is delegated to somebody else and your life gets so much easier. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you had an amazing 2025. 2025 wasn't about workflows or aligners or business strategies. 2025, in my opinion, was about people and their stories. The risks they took, the resilience, their creativity, and the drive to build things that go far beyond the walls of their practices. It wasn't just about simple moments. It was about reminders that ortho is evolving faster and faster than ever. And there are breakthroughs happening in ortho in every corner of the world. I want to say thank you for being a part of the journey. I want to thank you for watching, for learning, for experimenting, and pushing our profession forward. Here's to another year of inspiration, innovation, and never settling for good enough. I'll see you in 2026. And until then, let's build something together. We've got more stories, more breakthroughs, and more growth ahead. So please reach out to me. Tell me your stories. Let's get you on the podcast. And most importantly, thank you for following my dream of Orthopreneurs when I started it 8 years ago. It means the world to me when you reach out and let me know the impact it's had in your life and the fact that we're changing the orthodontic world one person and one practice at a time. Much love to each and every one of you, and wishing you a joyful, healthy, and prosperous 2026.